We have arrived to episode number 66 of the Gashouse Gang. Welcome in, everybody, alongside of Pauley Miklasz. I'm Matt Pauley. We've got a lot to talk about today, a few housekeeping items here at the top. If you're watching on YouTube, or if sometimes you watch on YouTube, or you've thought about watching on YouTube, you should watch on YouTube because you can subscribe to @KMOX Sports, and then when we go live, you can get your notifications right there. But YouTube seems to be the best way, and the easiest way for us to get the comments and things like that. Also, don't forget to be subscribed to at the Bernie Show as well, as Pauley Miklasz puts together videos on an everyday basis, going deep on a lot of different topics. It's a lot of fun, and it's a really good way to learn about something in a fairly short amount of time. So with that, we welcome you in. Feel free to comment as we go along, and we'll look at some of those as we do that. Bernie, great to see you as always, as we have just our final show before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's a great weekend. I mean, I love Saturday afternoon college and Saturday evening college basketball. Sorry, I'm having one of those days getting the words out. And then I'm certainly looking forward to an all-day football festival at the Miklasz home on Sunday. All those years covering this Super Bowl, more than 30 of them. I always dreamed of just being able to enjoy a Super Bowl party. With all the food and all the fun and no pressure to work. And I love having Super Bowl Sundays at home, more so than I did enjoy covering them.
Do you ever miss any aspect of covering the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I can't lie about that. I hated the week. Kevin Wheeler and I talked about this yesterday. I hated the week leading up to the Super Bowl. Absolutely hated it as time went by. Mm-hmm. If I had to do it all over again, I would have, maybe flown into the Super Bowl site Thursday night, something like that, write a couple columns, do a couple this, couple that, and then just do the game and come home. But Super Bowl week itself's a pain in the butt.
Fair enough. I've heard that from a lot of people. So
oh yeah, it's awful.
But yeah, we'll get into the Super Bowl. We'll get into football coming up a little bit later. We do want to start with baseball.
Sure.
Go ahead and print out those St. Louis Cardinals 2025 World Series champion shirts right now, because the Cardinals have made a move. They go out and they acquire a utility guy from the Twins to fill the final spot on the 40-man roster. Michael Helman comes in. He can play just about any position on the field. He's a right-handed bat. He's got options, so you can send him to the minor leagues. And for a fan base, Bernie, that has just been starved of anything all off season long, we get something.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I think we all should try to be fair to Michael Helman, who's the new Cardinal, at least going to be in their organization, because it's not his fault that he basically became the first real move the Cardinals have made this offseason. So the fans are having a ball just, with all the snark and all the sarcasm, and I get it. I mean, that's fine. But this is kind of, we were talking about it in our text message chain, getting ready for the Gashouse Gang. I said, this is kind of what the St. Louis baseball offseason has come to. It kind of sums it up perfectly. Here we are basically just about at Super Bowl Sunday, and the only thing the Cardinals have done, I know they made a couple waiver claims earlier and all that, but in terms of trading for a major league player, this is it. I mean, I think sums up the quiet, the dull, the inactive offseason the Cardinals have had. Not exactly going to sell some tickets, but let's give the guy a chance anyway. Maybe they'll get something out of him. I'd feel better if I knew that this was a guy, Michael Helman, whom Chaim Bloom or Rob Cerfolio or people that they know just said, you know what, this guy's actually got a chance. You ought to go ahead and grab him. I would feel a lot better about it if I knew that was the dynamic in place.
Well, all off season long, John Mozeliak has said he would like to shore up the bullpen, and he would like to shore up a right-handed bat that can play the outfield. Again, this guy has options. He's the last guy on the 40-man roster. In most years, Bernie, this is getting no run. This is a little footnote on some story that's being written. It's just it's a waiver claim. It's a guy who comes in and it's not a waiver claim. It was a trade, but it was a guy who'd been placed on waivers and they worked out. So I mean, the difference between those two things is minimal. It's a guy who you have no skin in the game on, that if all of a sudden somebody better comes along, you can designate for assignment. It's these things that happen every single year, multiple times for every Major League Baseball team. But as you said, because the Cardinals have done nothing, we're trying to put a little bit more definition onto this move.
And the thing, I can see him as a fit because he could be an upgrade over Felix Fermin, for example. I'm not saying he is because we don't know enough about him, but I was looking at his minor league. I mean, he's only had 10 plate appearances in the major leagues. He's like 2,000, almost 2,000 in the minor leagues. And he's been to a lot of places. But, in the minors, for example, he played 166 games at second. He played about 50 at third base. He played 92 in center field, 54 in left field, 29 in right field, 68 at shortstop. And if you're going to have a right-handed bench guy, if he's up to this challenge, if you're going to have a right-handed batter bench guy, this is one of those guys that you can pretty much put anywhere. So I like that about him. And as he has aged, that's the other thing. He's a 28-year-old AAA guy, but as the more experience he's gotten, the better he's hit. He actually had a pretty fine year at AAA in 2024. So we'll just see. But it's an interesting ad. But you and I think people that are rational minded will just see this for what it is. It's a guy. He's got some stuff that is appealing, and then let's see what he looks like in spring training.
If Nolan Arenado does get moved, he's another guy you can put at third base as well.
Right, that's right.
So.
And if Arenado gets moved, though, does that mean Sajasi's on the team? And then maybe Helman is going to be in the minor leagues. But again, it's just another depth piece. And they do, as you said, they do need a right-handed bat, although Sajasi's also a right-handed bat.
I did have to chuckle because it once again showed, because this move happens and immediately the keyboard warriors out there go to prove how this is another indication of why John Mozeliak should not be in his job and why the DeWitts need to sell the team and all this. It's remarkable, Bernie. And I don't mean to just go back to something that we've talked about over and over and over again, but anything that has Mo's fingerprints on it, no matter how good or bad, no matter how consequential or in this case inconsequential the move might be, people are so negative towards that man in this organization, they find a way to use it as a reason to supplement their points. Yeah,
he's going to get savage no matter what. Bill DeWitt's going to get savage no matter what. They're all going to get savage no matter what. So let everyone vent. I mean, whatever. There's going to be a new regime in place, and I'm sure, given the mood of Cardinals fans in general, they'll be happy with Heimblum and Rob Cerfolio taking this thing over. I don't know, for about 2.5, 3 weeks, and then they'll start savaging them too, because Cardinals fans have just suffered terribly. Just really have just suffered terribly over the last 29 seasons. They haven't won at all, haven't had any teams or players to get excited about. It's just been one long, exhausting, painful ordeal. One of the most feudal franchises in professional sports. So, yeah, I can understand why they would be just like savaging everybody and demanding that the owner sell the team, and never mind that this has been one of the great eras of Cardinals baseball, except for the last few years.
I did think about this last night, Bernie, how it's maybe unfortunate. It is what it is, but the Cardinals made the decision to allow John Mozeliak to spend this final season in his job and go through this transition and everything. And there's obviously positives and negatives to each side of it. I think it's really good that Heimblum is able to spend the year really, really focused in on resetting player development, things like that. But when this happens and I see all the reaction, it just reminded me once again that we're about to go through a season where the team's going to be dragged through the mud by the fans, all barring this team all of a sudden just playing above their heads like we aren't expecting them to do. It's the Cardinals' fault because they made the decision to go through this transitional period. But it's going to be a tough year for anything that happens and the negative reaction that goes along with it.
And one thing, can I throw a question at you? You're a reasonable person, and I try to be, although I can't control my snark and sarcasm, so I apologize for that. But let's say you are just Matt Pauley baseball fan and someone who will buy tickets to go to games or will be motivated to take out a subscription to the Cardinals direct-to-consumer streaming broadcast. If you are right now, let's just say in a dormant state or slightly frustrated or slightly angry with the way things are, what would it take to get you enthusiastic, fired up about the 2025 Cardinals? We all know they're not going to go to the World Series, but I'm just talking about what would it take to say, you know what, this is actually pretty good. They're kind of fun to watch. Hey, why don't we go to the game? Why don't we go to the game on Friday night? That type of thing.
Yeah, it's the young players taking a step forward and it being a fun, energetic, exciting team. Watching Mason Wynn do what he did last year, watching Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker take those steps forward, seeing Thomas Sajaci on the roster, and if they can win some games to go along with it, that goes a long way. But if they're going to advertise, Bernie, if they're and Oliver Marmel's talked about this multiple times in the few media appearances he's made this offseason, he's always brought up the style of play being energetic and exciting and all those things. Well, they got to follow through on that, and the old school Cardinals fans from the Whitey Ball days and running around the bases and everything, I think they would appreciate that. So that would be,
I agree.
The style of the way they play would be the thing that could attract me in.
Samuel, who's one of our listeners and watchers, thank you, Samuel. He just said, "Hey, Quinn Matthews," and I agree. Quinn Matthews would draw some people down, down to the ballpark, or just get people to maybe subscribe to the streaming service. There's some other young players that could do that too. I mean, if Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker are both having really good seasons, the Cardinals are a different team. If Herrera's catching a lot and he's getting better and he's hitting a lot, the Cardinals are a different team. I mean, I could go right on down the line. No need to review the whole lineup. If Nootbaar is what he's capable of being, because when he plays, he's good. But if he can stay in the lineup 140 times rather than 104 times, that would be exciting. Victor Scott emerges. You talk about running the bases and stealing bases and just blinding speed. Tied for third in the majors last year in sprint speed, Victor Scott. I hope he gets a chance because he could be a guy who would draw fans to the ballpark. So we'll see. But Matt, I'm not trying to branch off here, but this is related. One thing I do too much is think, and it's bad for me to think too much because it makes my brain hurt. But and then I roll around in bed because I can't shut my brain off. I was thinking, maybe I ought to do a video on this, or maybe this is a longer thing. But I'm just going to put this out there. This is a really strange time for Cardinals baseball in terms of their fan relations, and it's the Cardinals' fault for letting the product deteriorate, which kind of set off all this anger and disappointment. I get that, and I've said it a million times. I also think the Cardinals are stuck in some type of generational void or generational disconnect. And I've heard from a couple fans who, in so many words, talked about that, and I got to thinking about it. And let me just see if this resonates with you, and if you think it's all poppycock, tell me, right? Let's take the Cardinals' older fans, and I can't give you a specific age. We're just talking about older fans, maybe from the 40 on up, 45 on up, whatever. As you and I have talked about here on the Gashouse Gang, they hate, not all of them, but a lot of them just hate the way baseball's played today. Mm-hmm. They hate analytics. They hate all these non-baseball people running things. They hate they think every manager is controlled by some type of robotic operation, that can't think for himself. They hate baseball the way it is. Okay. And I hear that so much in my various platforms. St. Louis seems, especially older fans in St. Louis seem especially allergic to what baseball is now, especially if you just mention analytics, they set their hair on fire, basically. Complete overreaction to something that is just part of the game for every team. On the other hand, because they've been so dull in recent years and they haven't had any real postseason success, one time in 2019 for a long, long time, have they lost to an extent, not all of them, but have they lost a younger generation of fans? Like in other words, the previous generation grew up with the Cardinals winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. They're seeing Pujols, Edmonds, Roland, Wainwright, Chris Carpenter, on and on and on and on, right? Have they lost a big part of the younger generation of fans who weren't around to really savor those great teams, and all they see is kind of this dull team that just doesn't get anything done in the postseason anymore. What do you think? Is that one of their biggest problems?
That's a really interesting question. Lost kind of means you don't get them back. I don't think they've lost them, but I think people my age and below, I'm 42. I think people my age and below have found other things to do and other things to be passionate about, for sure. And look, the TV situation certainly has not helped. We talked about this the other day. It used to be a world where the game, whether it was radio or TV, the game was just always on in every home, everywhere. That was part of it, and it's not like that anymore. I don't know. I feel like if they start winning games, Bernie, this is not a conversation we would be having. Like, just win games and that fixes everything.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And the only thing I don't know about, and I'm sure the Cardinals have this information internally, I would like to know about the idea of young fans. And I'm not talking about like little kids that go with their parents or their grandparents or their uncle or their aunt. I'm not talking about kids who just love to go to the ballpark, but I'm talking about teenagers, early 20s, maybe mid to late 20s. I mean, is the passion there compared to the previous generation of fans in that age group? I don't know. To your point, if you winning, it cures most of your problems for sure.
But the young professionals who work downtown St. Louis are not going out as a group outing to go watch the game at night.
That's right. Yep, yeah. I agree. And I think the Cardinals have done listen, I'm not talking about the product on the field, okay? I'm talking about other things to get people to the games. I think they've done really well. Most major league teams have, in terms of some of their pricing and some of their promotions. And the people that basically say, well, it's too expensive, tickets cost this, tickets cost that. I mean, no offense, but this applies to every market. Every Major League Baseball team has been put in a position, just about every team has been put in a position where you really have to have discount tickets. You really have to have much cheaper ways for people to get in. No, I'm not talking about the price of concessions and all that. That's a separate issue. But just to get into the ballpark, I think the Cardinals have been creative, at least trying to make it easier for people to do that. Now, if you want premium tickets, yeah, you're going to pay a lot more money. But I'm talking about just getting in the ballpark to enjoy the experience, because I have found just being in the ballpark is fun, even if the team's not all that good.
It's the Gashouse Gang. We are presented by Game Day Men's Health. We're also presented, Bernie, by our friends over at Saliga Heating and Cooling.
Yeah, happy to talk about them. Saliga Heating and Cooling, we got some bad weather up ahead, and it's the cold part of the winter is still coming up, maybe the crunch time. And Saliga Heating and Cooling, it's good to have their phone number, 314-481-7333. Go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com, and you can see all their services, and the phone number is there. But this proud, independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer has been taking care of St. Louis families since 1927. So they're going on 100 years of business, and their customer service is great. We know the Miklashes have been calling Saliga for 15, 16, 17 years. I've lost track because it's been such a long time. And we understand why they've been successful. They're still successful after opening the doors in 1927. The same family owns it because they're trustworthy, they're honest, they don't try to hustle you, talk you into stuff. There's no upselling, there's no pressure. We have found that they'll actually try to save us money. We don't need a big, expensive piece of equipment. So we trust everything that they do. Their advice is great. They're professional and knowledgeable. And they look for other ways to help you out, like their Priority Club maintenance program. Take a look at that at SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. There's a lot of benefit to that. We're members of the Priority Club. Financing options are available, subject to credit approval. And of course, if you need it, they've got that American Standard heating and air conditioning equipment for you. So just go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com, and we really thank them, Dan Saliga, for their support of the Gashouse Gang here on KMOX.
Alongside of Pauley Miklasz, I'm Matt Pauley. It's the Gashouse Gang. We're presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling and also Game Day Men's Health. Bernie, let's switch gears and talk a little football. I want to get into a couple things, the Super Bowl, but also we found out about the Hall of Fame induction class yesterday. Smallest class going in since, I believe, 2005. And for St. Louis fans, it once again does not include Tory Holt. And I'm not trying to make this a Sterling Sharp beat up session, and Sharp goes in on the veterans ballot, so it's
Yeah.
not totally an apples to apples sort of thing, but the optics of him going in and when Tory Holt's available and Holt not going in is just terrible.
Yeah, and they tech to your point, they weren't technically competing against each other for votes. I mean, they're separate ballots. But the fact is, Tory Holt has been a finalist now for six years, which is a lot, and so has Reggie Wayne, which is a lot. Another wide receiver. So it does look bad when Sterling Sharp jumps the line. And Sterling Sharp, when he was healthy, was a phenomenal receiver. But I agree with people who also say, well, being able to suit up and do your thing and be able to play a long time and be available for your team, that is also a huge part of the strength of your career and your value as a player. The problem is, listen, man, and I've been on this, and I'm embarrassed because I really thought he was going to get in this year. And in the past matches, so I've always tried to tell people in advance, no, he's not going to make it yet. He's not going to make it this year. No, not this year either. Sorry, don't be mad at me, but I can read the room really well. I have a lot of contacts on the committee. I never thought until this year he had a great chance to make it. It was going to be a matter of time, and this was the time. So what did they do? And this is why the Hall of Fame process is just so convoluted and almost to the point. It's is somebody putting acid in the coffee pot or something? The people that devised, and it's not the voters. It's the management of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. These bizarre rules and just they're changing things all the time. Bottom line is, Tory Holt didn't make it because they changed the rules and the way, and because they want to cut down on the number of Hall of Famers that they admit from the modern era ballot, which is he's a modern era candidate. They're like, well, we've been letting too many of them in, and maybe we diluted the quality. So now we're going to make it to where instead of voting from 15 down to 10, down to 5, and then if somebody gets to the final 5, we're talking modern era candidates. If you get to the final 5, you're basically in. I mean, it's a done deal. Now what they did is go from 15 to 7, and then of the 7, it's not a yes or no vote. It is you're allowed to only vote for 5 of the 7, and even those 5, even the people that get the highest percentage of votes, they have to meet an 80% threshold. So in the past, Tory Holt lost out to some really great modern era candidates, right? This time he's lost out to no one. He's lost out because of the change of the process and the fact they want to actually reduce the number of people get in. So my fear now, and I'll shut up after this, my fear now is he's going to be a forgotten candidate. Larry Fitzgerald's going to be coming up soon. Tory Holt does not have a constituency. LA Rams fans don't care. My experience, unfortunately, is if I try to talk about, write about, do videos about the greatest show on turf, Rams, believe it or not, I get like criticism. It's like not offense, but it's amazing to me how too many people in our market associate that team for some psychotically bizarre reason with what the NFL did in terms of moving the Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs and all that. And so I don't even think Tory Holt's got as strong as constituency in St. Louis as he should. So who's going to lead the fight for him? That's the sad thing to me. I've seen players slip through the cracks. I was on the Veterans Committee for years, where we rescue guys who slip through the cracks. Who's going to lead the fight for him now that you have these Byzantine rules that change every other year and no one even knows what the process is anymore? Who's going to fight for Tory Holt?
Yeah, and look, I know Howard Balzer's in the room, and he does everything.
He does, right.
And he does everything that he can, but it can't just be one person. I wanted to go to this because I understand that the Pro Football Hall of Fame is not the NFL Hall of Fame. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is an independent entity that honors people who played in the NFL and other things as well. They do a lot of things beyond NFL football. I've got a friend who's in who's represented in like the indoor football part of it. They do so many things that people don't even realize. But I do wonder, Bernie, and you just touched on it, but I want to go down this road a little bit further with you. the fact that St. Louis is no longer an NFL market, how much does that hurt when St. Louis Rams and St. Louis football players are up for consideration?
No, it's a factor. I don't know how to say how much of a factor, but it is a factor because it was really a strain to get Isaac Bruce in, right? It was easy to get Marshall Faulk in. It was pretty easy to get Kurt Warner in. It was pretty easy to get Orlando Pace in. I was pleasantly surprised when a separate committee put Dick Vermeil in, but it's a situation where for some reason the line's been drawn to Tory Holt and at Tory Holt, and I feel bad for him and Reggie Wayne because, as I mentioned, they're both wide receivers, played at the same time. They both have been Hall of Fame finalists for 6 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're doing now, because they're reducing the number of people that are going to get in, Reggie Wayne and Tory Holt, which is, I believe, happened this year, that one of them shouldn't have gotten in. I think Holt should have gotten in over Wayne. And that's why there's only 3 modern era candidates that actually got in. These 2 guys canceled each other out. I firmly believe that, along with some others who took votes for them. It's a tough situation right now. It really, really is.
I understand the cliche. It's the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Very Good. I get that.
Yeah.
And you don't want to start watering down the level of talent. But Bernie, they haven't watered it down. I mean, there are so many deserving candidates. And no matter what Hall of Fame we're talking about, why are we so afraid of honoring greatness? Why can't we
I don't know what it
do
is.
it?
You know, I see, for example, baseball writers take shots at the Pro Football Hall of Fame because, like, oh, they put all these people in, they put way too many people in compared to what we do. We're much more selective. We're a much more serious voting body. No, you cover a sport where the roster is 26 people. The NFL, how many people are in an NFL roster? Plus, you also have 32 teams.
Yeah.
So there should be more players in the NFL, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because you got more teams, more players. Like Tory Holt, for example, I won't get into this long, hard thing about this, but Tory Holt was he was a member of the all-decade team in the 90s. No, I should say that the 2000s.
Yeah.
No receiver in the NFL had more yards receiving than Tory Holt from 2000 through 2009. That's a 10-season period. How is that not a Hall? And he's got a Super Bowl ring, and he caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl. How is that not a Hall of Fame career? If you're all decade, it means you're one of the very best players over a 10-year period in the league at your position. And if you're a receiver, your job is to catch passes and gain yards, and you've done that at heavier volume than any other wide receiver in the 1990s. Or I should say in the aughts from 2000 to 2009. How is that watering it down to put Tory Holt in there? I do agree with something my friend Martin Kilcoyne said, and I've said this before. If the Rams had not screwed up Super Bowl 36 and won that second Super Bowl ring, Tory Holt would have been in by now, and it would have been easier to get some of these other Rams in there.
There's still 3 seconds left in that game, though.
What's that?
There's still 3 seconds left in that game when the field goal went through.
They
ran the clock down like 3 more seconds.
I know, that's right.
The Rams should have gotten one more kick return. Who knows what would have happened? Those 3 seconds still really bother me, Bernie.
Well, the Rams blew that game because, listen, when you lose the turnover battle 3-0, and they got to the red zone one time in that game, and Bill Belichick's a smart coach. He's devious. And he told me this. I talked to him about it a couple of years after the fact. He said, we weren't going to let Marshall Faulk beat us. I told our guys they're not going to throw a lot of flags. So you just get really physical with Marshall Faulk, really bang Tory Holt and Isaac Bruce around. If you get a couple flags, that's okay. But you just be extra physical, and because we can't let them run free. We have to almost like strangle them. And Bill Belichick calculated correctly that they would not throw a lot of flags. So the Patriots would benefit from this roughhouse treatment. Now, some people will hate Belichick and accuse him of cheating or something. No, he actually smart enough to figure out how the game would be officiated. It's on the officials to throw the flag if there's a penalty. And the officials did not do it that day. And Bill Belichick was right in his assumption. So anyway, it's crazy. Tory Holt was the second wide receiver on the greatest show on turf in St. Louis, said Brad Allen. Yeah, he was. I don't know whether that's an endorsement or a negative, but I don't know.
Doesn't matter. His numbers are his numbers.
His numbers are his numbers. Yeah. And oh, by the way, he was putting up numbers long after Kurt Warner was out of the picture.
Yep.
I guess that means Lynn Swann and John Stallworth shouldn't have been elected to the Hall of Fame. Can't have two receivers from the same team, right? Nah.
Alongside of Bernie Miklasz, I'm Matt Pauley. It's the Gashouse Gang. We are presented by Game Day Men's Health and also Saliga Heating and Cooling. Bernie, Super Bowl Sunday coming up. It's the Chiefs. It's the Eagles. But we talked the other day about when we did the TV rating stuff and about Kansas City Chiefs, whether or not that's St. Louis's team or not. I had to laugh. My daughter's school, I've got a daughter in kindergarten. Today in St. Louis, today is Chiefs Day. At her school. And they sent out an email to all the parents to have the kids wear Chiefs gear to school today.
Well, you better don't disclose the name of the school or the location, because you're gonna have all the angry people, the angry minority. We're gonna go in there and shame those kids and demand that they leave the St. Louis area. They've relinquished their rights to citizenship. Clearly, yeah, people. Clearly. I'm really tired of this stupidity. I really am. People trying to shame others based on what team they want to cheer for or what they want to watch. I mean, I've reached the end of the line. Is trying to be tolerant about this. No one has to be embarrassed because they want to watch the Super Bowl. Super Bowl ratings in St. Louis outperform other NFL markets.
Yeah,
the Chiefs are very popular here. So what?
We'll probably have the third highest rating in the country. It'll probably Kansas City and Philadelphia will be 1, 2 in some order, and there's a very good chance that St. Louis will have the third highest rating.
The Chiefs get huge ratings in St. Louis, number one, because everyone loves to watch NFL football. Number two, all the games are available. And number three, this is no different than St. Louisans back in the day. Some of the best NBA postseason ratings were in St. Louis because everyone wanted to watch Michael Jordan and the Bulls.
Sure.
Was that an act of disloyalty? Because it's a Chicago team. What are the rules? Are we allowed to just watch something that's appealing to watch and watch greatness? Because I think we all are inspired by greatness. Do we I never understood where this is some kind of blood oath loyalty test. But these people are cranks. They're in the minority. Their voices give us a distortion about what the actual evidence shows. So I would advise everyone, you have fun. Put your Chiefs gear on, watch a game, put a Patrick Mahomes poster up, listen to Taylor Swift, do whatever the hell you want to do. Don't worry about the church ladies and all the nags and all the dictators who would like to who would like to control your TV sets in your minds. Just get out, get away. I don't want to. You don't matter.
From a football perspective, do you like? I think this game, Bernie. I think the Eagles have the better roster. I think the Chiefs have the better quarterback, the better head coach, the better defensive coordinator.
Yep.
And I think the Chiefs end up winning because they always win these type of games. But I am very interested to see what's going to happen. This looks like a really good game on paper to me.
The thing about it is there's some keys, and I'll be very brief. You got to at least do a decent job of making sure Saquon Barkley doesn't run away with the game. But Spagnuolo's listen. If they win, this will be his 5th Super Bowl championship as a defensive coordinator. Nobody's ever done that. You can make a case he's the best in the history of the NFL, at least during the Super Bowl era. But here's the thing about Spags. He in his 18 games as the Chiefs defensive coordinator in the playoffs, 18 postseason games, they've never allowed even a running back to gain 90 yards, let alone 100. 23 postseason games, Giants and Chiefs as the defensive coordinator. 23 games, one time has a back gained 100 yards, and it did matter because the Giants went on to win the Super Bowl. One of the great performances ever. If we say how can they stop, Saquon Barkley? How could they stop that 2007 New England team that averaged 38 a game and about 470 yards a game? They held them to 14 points and 247 yards. That was one of the greatest coaching performances by a defensive coordinator of all time. So Saquon Barkley is great. He is absolutely great. But my point is, we have seen Spags in the postseason shut down great offenses and great players. And if you go back, there's a couple. Oh, I'm sorry. Last year's Super Bowl, people forget Christian McCaffrey had more than 2,000 yards from scrimmage last year with you put the postseason in, and he had 21 touchdowns last year. He was at his peak as a great running back. He did nothing in the Super Bowl. He caught some passes, one for a touchdown, but as a runner, he did nothing in the Super Bowl. Spags came up with a way to shut him down. The Eagles are really good. There's and I promise I wouldn't ramble on about this, but I'm just going to say another really huge key in this game. Vic Fangio is a hell of a defensive coordinator. Yep. The Eagles have the best defense in the league. You know what the thing about the Chiefs, we think it was a kind of a lousy offense by their standards and this and that and this and that. But you know the one thing they did very well all season? They would march the ball down the field and get into the red zone. They were number 2 in the league this year, offensive possessions percentage of getting into the red zone. But once they got in the red zone, they struggled to score touchdowns, right? You know which team in the NFL this year was the very best at preventing touchdowns in the red zone? Vic Fangio and the Eagles. Mm-hmm. The red zone will be a huge battleground in deciding this Super Bowl. Yards after the catch. Fangio's defense, the best in the league at prohibiting yards after the catch. And that's what the Chiefs have to rely on. On the other hand, one other thing, and then I'll shut up. If you put pressure on Jalen Hurts, and I know he said, but he can run. He's fast. He can get away. That's all true. But he holds on to the ball too long. If you can get pressure on Jalen Hurts, statistically, he's one of the very worst quarterbacks in the NFL throwing under pressure because he holds onto the ball too long and he takes a lot of sacks. And when he does roll out to his escape paths, he's very predictable. I'm thinking Steve Spagnuolo's made notes of all that stuff.
I would assume so. It's the Gas House Gang. Bernie, we're brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling.
Absolutely. We'll have a nice warm home on Super Bowl Sunday because of Saliga Heating and Cooling, man. They take great care of us. They have been for 16, 17 years, just like generations of St. Louisans have been calling this independent American standard heating and air conditioning dealer since 1927. The Saliga family's done a great job. They continue to do a great job. They're honest. They're trustworthy. They have the utmost credibility. They come into your home, the knowledge, the professionalism, the classiness, it's all there. They can do any kind of job that you have in mind, whether even business, if you have a commercial business or residential work, there's other things there that they do for you that aren't specifically heating and cooling. Go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com to see all the stuff that is there for you and check out the Priority Club. It's a maintenance program. And listen, preventative maintenance can save you a lot of money and give you peace of mind. I would recommend you look into that. So go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com for that. And don't forget you get that American Standard heating and air conditioning equipment if you need it. Financing options always available, subject to credit approval. SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thank you.
Just a minute or so left here on this edition of the Gas House Game presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling and Game Day Men's Health. Bernie, I'd be remiss if I didn't just mention the Blues real quick. They opened up a 6-game homestand. First game, they have a third-period lead. They can't hold on to it. They lose in overtime. Last night against, admittedly, a really good Florida team, and we know how good Matthew Tkachuk is, but they give up a goal right at the end of the game and end up losing it. If there was any hope that they were going to take a 6-game homestand and turn that into a run, I feel like that hope is all but gone now.
It's the most disappointing thing about the Blues season. They were a really bad home team under Drew Bannister, and they're still a really bad home team under Jim Montgomery. And the fans deserve better. And you're right. At the end of the day, it's when they miss the playoffs. I think number one on the list is going to be the fact that they had no home ice advantage whatsoever. In fact, compared to other NHL teams, the home ice was detrimental to the Blues so far this season. And that's a shame. That's inexcusable.
We got a ton of comments today. We didn't get to maybe as many as we would like. We'll do a better job of that in the future. Thank you so much to everybody who comments, and we read them all. They're on our screen as we go along. So just because maybe we don't read yours, don't think that we don't see it and that we won't get to it in the future. We hope that you do continue to be very interactive. That was a bad job by me today of not getting to more comments. But Bernie, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the Super Bowl, and we will see you coming up next week. I won't be with you on Monday because I will be in the air between St. Louis and Jupiter, Florida.
Well, I hope there's some activity for you down there. There's a lot of great stories. There will be great stories in spring training. So look forward to all your work, Matt Pauley. You do a great job down there.
That's Bernie Miklasz. I'm Matt Pauley. Thanks so much for being tuned in to the Gas House Gang, presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling and Game Day Men's Health.